Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Strange Normal. My name is Brad Burnham. We talk about the stranger things that happen in your normal life to give you a biblical understanding of what's going on. And there is a lot going on, especially this last week. So hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell icon, hit that like button so you're notified when things like this happen. We got a lot to talk about tonight, but first on the docket, I want to tell you that we're going live a little bit early tonight. If you are live, you are watching right now, thank you for being here. We are going to be live, not like this always, but this week I got a big event happening. I'm going to Chicago to talk more about this at some church up there in Chicago. I want to show you that a little bit because it's a big deal. We need to talk more about this in churches. We're going up there, we're going to be talking, and we're going to be presenting this, me and a friend of mine, Mikey, and we're going to do quite a job on this important issue that's happening right now, because this is an issue that I don't think a lot of people are talking about because of the stigma that's surrounding this whole thing. And the spiritual realm has made it that way so that we can't do that, and the stigma has to go away. We have to break out of there. We have to get through this. We have to talk about this so that we can tell people this big deal right here, and this is the bulk of my discussion. I'm not rambling. This is very important, people. The bulk of the whole thing is that what we're seeing is supposed dead relatives are appearing to people exactly how, at least my church has always said, this is going to happen. But they never said it's going to be surrounded by this whole alien deception type thing. That's a big deal that's happening right now, and it's going to just blow everyone's mind when that starts happening. They're like, wait a second, but there was supposed to be some spiritualism associated with this, but now we're having craft appear in the sky? My relatives appearing to me? What's going on here? This is a big deal. So we're going to talk a lot about the state of the dead. We're going to talk a lot about what's happening, some testimonies about what's happening, and it's going to be really, really fruitful. But if you would like to join us in that, if you're in Chicago, please join us. The address is on that flyer. I'll put it up one more time here so that you can see it. Down there at the bottom, it's Northwest Church, Northwest SDA Church. You need to come and check it out. It's going to be great. So let me bring my guest in, Matthew. Matthew, thank you so much. He is MC, the Master of Ceremonies in the chat. Who knows what that actually means. Matthew, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, Bradley?
Doing very well. This is a crazy week, man. I mean, we're going. The show is not at its normal time. We had an extra show that happened at the beginning of the week that I appreciate you saying in the Discord, hey, Brad, we got to do this. There's too much going on right now. And that was important.
Yeah, I'm glad that we did the Monday night broadcast. If you're one of our regular viewers and you missed out on that, definitely check it out. We're going to be doing a little bit of recapping, a little bit of updating, but UFOs are in the news. It's happening. It's out there.
More and more and more. In fact, I am daily convinced that this whole thing that we have seen just this week with the balloon incident, it's going to do a few different things. I mean, this is a game of chess in the spiritual realm, and I absolutely believe that this was set up not only to cause contention between us and China, which we're going to be talking about tonight, but we're also causing a lot of grief for the radar operators, because now everybody in NORAD has to reconfigure that stuff, and we have proof of that. I've said that before on the show, but I have found proof that is actually happening, that they are reconfiguring their radars to see smaller objects now, which will further push this agenda that the spiritual realm has of having these objects appear. And there will be more and more testimonies coming out by the military, which will make this sound more legitimate, and this is just going to blow up. Excuse the pun, no pun intended.
Well, yeah.
I want to recap Matthew, unless you have something to say about it.
Oh no, I think tonight's show is going to be very interesting, so we might as well just get right into it.
Let's do it. And so first on the docket, Tucker Carlson is going to give us a quick recap of what has happened this last week as we expounded upon in the last episode. You should check that one out as well. But let's jump right into that right now.
All of a sudden, it seems like Joe Biden is shooting an awful lot of things out of the sky. Have you noticed? It's not your imagination. Last Sunday, of course, the Pentagon took out that enormous Chinese spy balloon after it had already surveilled our entire country from the Aleutian Islands to South Carolina. You thought the trend was over, but no. On Friday, the White House announced that fighter jets had downed an object the size of a car over Alaska. Then on Saturday, an American F-22 shot down another unidentified object over Canada. Then on Sunday, an F-16 took out what the pilot said looked like a flying octagon 20,000 feet over Lake Huron. This apparently was the same object that the Pentagon had dismissed as a radar anomaly the night before as it hovered over Montana. Montana Congressman Matt Rosendale was not convinced. He said it looked very real to him, and apparently he was right. But what was it? What exactly were all three of these objects? As of yesterday, nobody seemed to know.
Well, we know tonight, we're going to get to the end of the program, and the official, who knows what the official thing is, but according to administration and leadership of the United States, we have an official stance on what these extra things were tonight. But we're gonna walk the story down first. We're gonna talk a little bit about it, and we're gonna find not only what the narrative is, but also what people are saying, to try to understand this from a whole bunch of different perspectives. Matthew, what do you think?
Yeah, I think we know what they want us to know, if you know what I mean. We might not actually know for sure what is going on, but there has been a little bit of information given. And when I say a little bit of information, I mean bare bones, like hardly even satisfying. I can't call it a meal. I can't even call it a snack. It's like a little taste. But yeah, no, we'll run it down and we'll see what we can figure out and see what other people are saying too.
So this next video on the docket, we're gonna really dive into these next two videos. We're gonna show exactly what happened with the radar system and why this is becoming such a big deal. These are two videos I snuck in, Matthew. We've gone over this ahead of time, but I was like, oh yeah, I remember that on the driving back, and so maybe spirit-led. I think this is important. This is very important to understand what's happening and why this is happening right now. This is Glenn Beck talking to Senator.
Congressman Chris Stewart on with us now. He is a military veteran and also a member of the intel community, and he is going to tell us what he can about the briefing that they had yesterday about these UFO balloons that no one has claimed so far. Yesterday, all of a sudden, on a dime, the Pentagon starts saying, oh, no, these were probably balloons, commercial, and we just blew them up, and no big deal. What the hell is that? Wait, you just spent days telling us these were possibly dangerous UFOs. Chris Stewart joins us now. Hello, Chris.
Hey, good morning, Glenn.
Did you walk out with an understanding of what's going on?
No one did. And honestly, you say, I'm going to tell you what I can tell you, and I can tell you everything. It was an unclassified briefing, and very, very little information was shared. I mean, I can't think of a recent example where so much has been said about so little, and at the end of the day, you kind of scratch your head and go, well, these guys don't know what they are. And honestly, Glenn, I think they're happy for the diversion. In fact, I know that they are. Because instead of talking about the Chinese spy balloon that they botched completely and the policy that should surround that, we're speculating and talking about UFOs and weather balloons. And again, they're happy to have that conversation rather than the more significant one of previous week.
Well, I want to talk to you about two things from the previous week that I do believe this is working out well. But I just want to get to as much of the bottom of this as we can. We had Crenshaw coming out yesterday, and he said that that these were UAPs. Now, UAPs are usually what we used to call UFOs. They're not balloons. And he said they were the size of an ATV. They were hard to detect. At least two of them were. Are these balloons, or do we really not know what they are? How are they describing these?
Yeah, they described them as UAPs as well. And by the way, why did we change it from UFO? Why does it have to be complicated? UFOs worked fine, and now we all struggle to go, okay, what does UAP mean? But that's how they describe them. I think they probably were balloons. And let me tell you why. And again, I don't know that, but common sense kind of leads to that conclusion. The fact they were so difficult to detect by radar would make sense and fall in line with them being balloons, because balloons won't reflect for radar. And for radar to work, especially on a fighter aircraft, there has to be motion, there has to be speed in the target. That's actually what the radar is detecting. And these balloons were so slow that's often why they missed them, or why they would have anomalies where they'd see them for a short time and then not see them again. So over the last week or so, they tuned some of the radars down, and by that they're able to pick up some of these slower flying objects.
I joined them, and then we.
Okay, so let me pause that just for a second here, because I want to talk about that. They tuned some of the radars down. Let me hang on that for a second. And they tuned some of them down so that they could actually see these slower moving objects. Well, obviously, because you don't want China to be flying balloons over the United States that have bombs. That's the whole goal here. It's a national security risk. So they've tuned these down. But isn't it interesting, Matthew, that this is coming now when there was a lull in talking about UAPs? I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, it is interesting. I think it's also pretty funny that the guy observed they changed from UFO to UAP, and he was like, what's the deal with changing that? Well, UAP is the unidentified aerial phenomenon, which I think the stuff that we usually cover falls much more into the category of a UAP than a UFO. I think it's an interesting thing. This week there's just been a lot of speculation, mainly about distractions. You're going to hear that a lot tonight. People are thinking that this whole story, the shoot down, maybe they weren't even very significant. Maybe they were, just normally things that go unnoticed, and they tracked them down, shot them down, have something to talk about. I think that's possible. I think it's possible that these could be random things that maybe couldn't be classified. Yeah, we'll have to see as more information comes out. It's funny though, even that congressman is saying, we don't know. Nobody knows. It's like everybody is just constantly saying, I don't know.
I don't know. And they're going to see a lot more of these things now that they've tuned their radars down. But now we actually heard this before, and I kept thinking, I posted on my Facebook, I said, you know what, I think this is what's happening. They reconfigured, upgraded their radars, and they've all of a sudden are seeing more of these UAPs. Now they want to look for balloons, and they're going to see more UAPs. And then I found exactly where I had heard that before. This is that next clip. Take a look.
Flew back, and still as a relatively new guy, we came back and we entered what's considered a maintenance phase, where we slow down the tactical flying a bit, kind of recuperate, do some maintenance on the aircraft. And our particular model of the F-18, the lot number, was plumbed for the particular things that were needed to upgrade the radar from what's known as the APG-73 to the APG-79. And the APG-73 is a mechanically scanned array radar. It's a perfectly fine radar, but the AESA radar is kind of a magnitude jump in capability, kind of an analog digital kind of mindset. So
got it. So it's a leap to digital. APG-73, 79. Are these things on a carrier? Like, what are we talking about here?
This is
how big is the radar?
Yeah. So this is actually the radar. It's in the F-18 itself.
Okay, so when you say they were chosen, this is to test the upgrade to the 79, APG-79.
Less of a test and more of just, hey, it's your turn to get the upgrade. Like, we're all going to these better radars. They were building ones off the line with the new radar. but we were this weird transitionary squadron in the middle that transitioned from the older ones to the new ones. But it's not particularly rare to fly with different types of radar, because in we call the fleet replacement squadron, essentially the training ground for the F-18, you have all sorts of F-18s with different radars. So you are used to having multiple ones. But in the actual deployable combat squadron, we upgraded. And when we upgraded, we saw that there were objects on the radar that we were seeing the next day with this new radar that weren't there with the old radar. And these were sometimes, the same day. You might go on 2 flights. The one in the morning might be with the older radar, the one in the evening with the new radar. And you'd see the objects with the new radar. And that's not overly surprising in some sense. They are more sensitive. Perhaps they're not filtering out everything they should be yet, or perhaps there's some other type of error. Maybe it needs to be calibrated, whatever. It was relatively new, and we were somewhat used to there being software problems with these types of things occasionally, just like anything else. And so, okay, maybe this is a radar software malfunction. We're getting some false tracks, as we call them.
What were you seeing?
And so what we would see are representations of the object. So this is off of our radar. We're not seeing a visual image here. This is kind of like what's being displayed to us, almost like in a gaming fashion, right? Like the icon, right? So the icon is showing us, hey, something is there, and here's the parameters I can understand about it.
So this is in the cockpit. There's a display that's showing some visualization of what the radar is detecting.
Correct.
And we hear this more.
I don't know why I keep skipping to the next video, but that's interesting to me. So you got 2 videos confirming here. You got a senator, I think he was a senator, and you got a pilot, congressman, excuse me, a congressman that's saying, yeah, they upgraded, and then you got a pilot that is saying, yeah, we upgraded the radar, which is this little nose cone on the front of the plane that has the sensor in it, and they're seeing all these things, and they're saying, well, maybe it's just a miscalibration. No, this what's going on here is they know I mean, this is all pre-planned ahead of time, not by humanity, but by a much bigger something we struggle with. The Bible says we struggle not with flesh and blood, but with powers and principalities of darkness. This is a huge chess game. They know we're upgrading. This is the time to do it. They say, hey, how about let's show our military that this is a big deal, especially since they just implemented a new web portal to allow military to come and report on this stuff. And so now you're going to have all kinds of things coming in. I mean, you think you got the last quarter, you got a few hundred. I expect this next year we're going to have hundreds, thousands probably reports now of, hey, these objects are getting too close to our aircraft. We see them in the radar. This, that, and the other thing. That's what's going on here. Anyway. What is next, or what do you have to say? What do you think, Mike, Matthew?
Well, I think that Satan has been in the war business for a very long time. I mean,
Yeah.
He started a war in heaven, and as soon as he could, he got one brother to kill the other.
Yep.
Cain and Abel, I mean, the first murder. So the military-industrial complex definitely is... It's an avenue that Satan is going to utilize. So even if that's something not necessarily combative, it's just upgrading a radar system. Well, if he can upgrade a radar system so that you're starting to detect more of his minions floating around, and there's going to be more investigations into them, that's going to suit his purposes. It could also suit his purposes to have some type of a war break out. We know from prophecy that there are wars and rumors of wars. Well, I got news for you. There are currently wars being fought on planet Earth, and I think we're beginning to hear some serious rumors of war. I mean, there's been rumors out there, but this seems to be a little more plausible because of the Chinese spy balloon being shot down. The response from that, people they want to strike back. This always seems to happen for America to justify war against another country. Is someone comes in as an aggressor towards America on American soil or attacking an American vessel, and the next thing you know, a couple months later or within the year, you're at war, and you turn around and you're like, how did we get here? Oh, well, A, B, C, D. Okay, well, I guess it makes sense. But if you rewound the clock a couple of years and said, yeah, I mentioned this before. We're all talking about the balloon, and people want to go to war with China over the balloon. They're like, "What, the balloon? What happened?"
It's just a balloon. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna see things, and we have more information about the balloon and the fact that it's a little more than they thought it was. A little later on, I think, in the show. But this is a big deal. We have clip two. Clip 2 is talking about Glenn Beck. He's talking to Senator Mike Lee this time about these UAPs. So we're going to get two different guys understanding of what happened as we continue down in this saga, and understanding what has been shot down and what is the ramifications of that. Check it out.
That they are UAPs, which I guess could be balloons, but usually those are, something solid. These were the size of cars, and they weren't balloons. They were metal. Is that true?
Yeah, so first of all, we don't really know what they are. I don't know how they claim now to know what their nature is, whether they're commercial, military, or from some other origin, because they haven't found them. I suspect at this point that they're theorizing on what it might be. That was what was so frustrating yesterday, is they held this classified briefing to tell us about what happened. And they showed up and basically said, we don't know what happened. We had all hoped and expected, based on public statements, that they had covered what was left of these objects and that they were studying them. They haven't found them, at least as of yesterday when they briefed us. They hadn't found them. They still don't really know what they are.
So wait, did they show you video? I don't know what you can and can't say.
No.
Come on, we launched missiles.
Yeah.
We know we have the video from the cockpits. We know that.
Yeah. And we repeatedly asked them about that. Can you show us anything by way of photographic documentation of a video footage, anything like that? They said, we've got some that really isn't useful because the objects are so small, so far away, that the resolution doesn't really do anything for us.
Then why would we shoot them down?
In the picture. It's an excellent question. So we shot them down, not knowing what they were, just based on their altitude. We just knew that they were there. But I still can't fathom why it made sense to scramble fighter jets, shoot missiles at them, bring them down, when we have no idea what they are.
I want to go back to this UFO story.
Dan Bongino. What? Okay.
He's coming up next.
Yeah, obviously. It's scrolling into the next one for some reason. I got to figure that out. What do you think about this, Matthew? I'll work on that. Well, if you have anything to say about it, what stood out to you?
Well, first of all, I thought it was funny that Glenn Beck wants the footage. I mean, everybody was so excited about the first shoot down that we're all eagerly awaiting. I think it's interesting that they didn't even show them the video, that they just said, oh, no, you can't really make anything out from it. I don't know why, from a briefing standpoint, you wouldn't just put all of the materials out there. If it's information, it's information. Just say, yeah, I mean, here it is. You're not going to be able to see much out of it, but here it is. They did something similar when they were briefing Congress on UAPs. Do you remember this? They were trying to show them the orb outside of the cockpit, and they were like trying to freeze frame on it.
They spent 15 minutes trying to get, hey, oh, you passed it. No, I think it's a little bit further back. No, do you know how to work Media Player?
Yeah. Was that it? Was that it? No. What is this? Huh? Yeah, they should have gotten one of their grandsons in there really to figure things out. But yeah, I mean, if they were able to show that at a congressional hearing, I don't know why they wouldn't just show any footage, like I said, that you have on hand. Why not? I think there's a point to this obscuring the information, and it seems that the lawmakers are frustrated by it. It makes me wonder, because just saying, well, we don't know, they didn't tell us what these things are, they just know they were at a certain altitude, so we shot them down. I would be frustrated too. If I was going to these briefings, you're probably expecting to get a little something to be able to tell your constituents what's going on, and you can't, because no one's telling you anything significant. It's just wild.
And you got the chain of command. I'm sure the president's going, okay, can you explain what can the first officer or first commander or brigadier general or whatever his name is, all the way down the You're laughing at
Because
me.
Joe Biden. No, I was just thinking if they're explaining it to Joe Biden, they might have to repeat themselves a couple of times.
Oh, poor Joe.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be there.
Oh man, yeah. So there's a lot happening, and they're trying to figure it out. We actually have Joe as the last clip here, and he's going to tell exactly what it is according to what everyone thinks, and we know that's probably the narrative. So we'll wait until that's the last. But coming up, we got Dan Bongino. He's going to talk a little bit about his thoughts not only on the UAPs but on what the other side of the chess game is going for. So we've talked a little bit about the spiritual side of the chess game. He's going to talk a little bit about what the balloon means between U.S. and China, and I thought it was a pretty good point. So I included that clip in here. It's fascinating. Check it out.
I want to go back to this UFO story because there's a guy at the Wall Street Journal, Holman Jenkins, who has been all over this forever. There are two stories he's nailed, and the mainstream media has largely ignored his take on both topics, because I candidly, I think he's the only one who's got the whole story right on how Hillary's email scandal, Spygate, and the Russia hoax are connected. It's all the same thing, but the same players. But he's also nailed it from the beginning. He has been screaming from the rafters forever about this UFO story, how this is a huge distraction, bottom line up front, to distract you from the fact that China owns us. They have pretty much mapped out the entire United States using low-tech balloons and probably standard cheapo drones for years now. And the government's been distracting you with leaks and, Joe, winks and nods about aliens and little green men to get you to believe, I shouldn't say it, to distract you from the fact that they don't want to tell you we're getting wrecked by China. Again, this is not a show about is alien life real or not. That's a different topic. The universe is big. We can talk about that another day. This is a topic about government using that question, using it to distract you. Because every time I mention this, no matter how many times I put that buyer beware in there, I get 1,000 messages from people saying, Dan, are you saying aliens don't exist? I have no idea. That's not what I'm saying. I'm telling Joe, if you would have saw Facebook yesterday, it was unbelievable.
Oh, dude.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm telling you the government is using that argument to distract you from the fact that we are getting destroyed by the Chinese Communist Party on the surveillance front.
And I'm just going to throw this out there. He's so animated. I wish I could be that animated. Dan cracks me up. But
it sounds like everybody here needs to go to Dan Bongino's Facebook page and ask Dan Bongino about aliens.
I will do that. I'm going to do that this week.
Seriously, you do it. Yeah.
We got inundated with people believing they're demons. I don't understand it.
That'd be great. Oh, that could become a talking point. That would really show we're having an impact.
Where is this coming from? I don't understand. I think we all need to do that. We all need to get rallied together and go to Dan Bongino and talk about this. So he talks about it, so he can have more content to talk about it. That'd be hilarious. But he has a good point, because I do believe there are three major powers in the world right now. There's the U.S., there's China, and there's Russia. Russia, sadly, hasn't proved very powerful, and unless you don't believe the narrative that they're pushing right now, I'm just really shocked by the country's right beside them. I mean, come on. But I'm not saying, hey, you should take Ukraine. That's not my goal in this.
It sounds like you're cheering for Russia in this war, Brad.
I'm just amazed. They're this giant country, and anyway, I know we're helping them out, and there is a lot going on here that doesn't meet the eye, but come on. I'm just amazed. So I'm not.
Oh, yeah.
Other than them having nuclear weapons, I'm not really worried about Russia. China, on the other hand, this is not something we want. As we push all of our resources out to help Ukraine, now we got China waiting for the perfect moment during administration that's not really, dare I say, quick on the draw to take something that they've always wanted and something that we've always said that we will defend, which is Taiwan. I'm fascinated by this. So I think there's a big deal going on here, and this could really lead to something really big, really fast. And Wars and rumors of wars. I mean, that's where we're at right now, just like you said.
We're there. You might be a bit surprised with China. I honestly, I think China is a bit of a paper tiger. I don't think that they're as powerful as people make them out to be. Personally, I know from a Navy standpoint, China has more ships than us, but I mean, they'll classify anything as a ship. If it's the size of my bedroom, that's a ship. And also, they're not necessarily blue water ships, which means that they can go out into open sea. A lot of their ships, they can just go coastal defense. So in terms of Taiwan, that is right off the coast of China, and it's significantly smaller than Ukraine. So if they were to invade Taiwan, I imagine they would get it. Unless the U.S. had a substantial force to meet them there, and I mean like strike groups with aircraft carriers. But then you're like, what are you looking at there? You're looking at serious battles that haven't been fought since World War II. I mean, that type of fighting in the Pacific hasn't happened since Japan versus America, and those battles were insane. I mean, if you look at some of the degree of the casualties and just the number of ships that were involved, just simply wild. But that's the thing. So everyone was kind of scared of Russia. Then Russia invades, and it's kind of like, oh, they're not really as powerful as we thought they were, but they have nuclear weapons, and that goes for China as well. My theory on this is that World War III, should it be fought, and I believe it will be fought, actually.
Yeah.
I have some interesting sources. I should have brought them, but I do have some interesting sources.
Are they pocketbooks? I mean, what are you grabbing in your pockets?
Where did I put the story? No, but there was a French historian recently who said World War III has begun, and he's been correct about some of his other theories or whatever. That's all well and good, but I know someone who said last year on June 14th that World War III had begun. Any guesses as to who that might be?
No, I have no idea.
No idea? Well, it's the man in white himself, Pope Francis.
Pope
Francis said on June 14th that as far as he was concerned, World War III had begun, that it was being fought piecemeal before this, but he said now it has begun. We are fighting World War III. And you'll often see when the Vatican puts something out and it's a talking point, it's a trickle-down effect. It takes a couple of months. Sometimes it takes a couple of years. You'd be surprised. Even the climate agenda that a lot of people push, it comes straight out of Laudato Si, which is an encyclical by Pope Francis.
Right.
So as far as that goes, I mean, I'm going to have to side with the Pope on this one. A rare circumstance, but we're in World War III and everything but name. So expect things to escalate. Now, don't be scared. Don't be concerned.
Right.
You got to have that, build on the rock that is Jesus Christ. We're going to be fine. I know that these things are scary, but ultimately we're going to get seen through it. All that being said, coming back to the nuclear weapons, I think that's the ultimate final card that everyone's going to put on the table. Because what do you do when you burn out all of the missiles? You burn out all the tanks. You burn out the ships. No one wants to concede defeat at this point, and you have a nuclear arsenal waiting to be fired.
Right.
That's what I think is going to happen. And I think that and I'll stop talking here in a second. I'm sorry, but I just think that is going to be where the aliens make their grand appearance in a savior display.
Exactly.
Nuke yourselves.
Nuclear savior. Hey, there's a major. You're gonna have, like Morneau says, we're gonna have destruction. Let me play that clip that we play all the time on this channel. No, I played it so many times. Everyone's seen this clip.
It's all burned into our minds.
I know. but the one thing he says, Morneau says, is that they're coming when we're to tell us, to warn us of the coming destruction of the earth. And so that's what these things say. So it must be just before havoc is produced by Earth. And so I think that's interesting. But let's go to see what Australia is thinking. Our friends down under, to see what they're thinking about this whole thing, because I like to get many different perspectives from. Everyone wants to talk about the balloon. The United States is having balloon problems. Ha ha ha. So let's see what they're saying now. Oh.
Is Australia's top foreign affairs writer, Greg Sheridan, of the Australian newspaper. Greg, can you explain what is going on? 4 things in 1 week, all shot down. What are they?
Well, Andrew, it's a very mysterious circumstance. So the balloon was certainly electronic surveillance equipment by China, very naked. You wonder if the Chinese system is functioning properly because they knew that Anthony Blinken was just about to go to China. They couldn't imagine that the balloon device wouldn't be noticed. Now, the 3 other devices, America doesn't shoot things out of the sky in a wanton fashion, so we don't know what they are, but you have to say it's a very good bet that they were also electronic surveillance gear, probably from the Chinese. By the way, one little footnote, every alien spacecraft that has ever been seen in the history of the world is either a Chinese, a Russian or an American communications intercept device or a new American plane being test flown. I think we can, but I'm glad to see the Pentagon didn't rule out aliens in this case.
Greg, we're trying to be serious here. But why, Greg, the lack of detail from the White House and the Pentagon? That just adds to the whole mystery, saying they're just objects. I mean, seriously, they can give more detail than that, surely.
Yeah, I think this has been, at the very best, a very sloppy process from the Biden White House. Now, oddly enough, the Chinese are doing a great job for us in educating the world about what the Chinese state is all about. But it was bizarre to let that Chinese balloon device drift all across America, spending large amounts of time above top secret American military facilities with this very sophisticated electronic communications intercept device. And I mean, it wasn't storing the information on a hard drive, which was going to be sent back to Beijing by carrier pigeon. It was broadcasting all the information it got to Beijing for the whole week that it was making its leisurely way across American skies. That seems a bit strange, that the Americans allowed that to happen. Then they shot it down, and I think the Biden administration worked out that the American people like to see it shot down. But then it's hard to believe that these 3 new devices, that there have been no devices like this in the past. They've all just come up this week. Or are the Americans now newly attentive about shooting them down? And how come we can't get any coherent line out of the White House or the Pentagon? At the very best, this is extremely sloppy, but, you know, I always distrust conspiracy theories, but this all doesn't add up publicly.
No, you're absolutely right. And it's like they're suddenly out on a skeet shooting range. I mean, it's just no sooner one up and boom, you know, golly, a bit hair trigger. The British government even says that some balloons may even pass over their country too. It's ordered an inquiry. Is how very mysterious this gets.
Boom.
The UK is jealous of our Chinese spy balloons. You see that at the end? They just casually put that in there. Yeah, there might be some Chinese balloons in the UK. Yeah, they're going to be everywhere pretty soon.
Yeah,
it's interesting. Yeah, that these news anchors are frustrated and voicing their frustration. They're calling it a sloppy job.
Well, they can't get anything. They can't get the story out of there, and so they need something to say. Let's talk about how terrible it is. We can't get the facts. I mean, it's their job. So
totally, yeah. It's funny too that he mentioned conspiracy because he's like, I'm not normally a conspiracy guy, but you know, I'm kind of leaning towards conspiracy. Everybody feels like there's something more to this than there actually is. So at this point, I don't know. Where do you lean towards at this point, Bradley? Do you think these UAPs are the fallen angels that we've covered on this channel, or do you think they're just whatever?
So there are some characteristics, and I'm glad you said that because I want to bring this out because we haven't talked about this for a long time. There are some characteristics of UAPs that are very important, and they don't typically. Let me see if I can find the 5 characteristics of UAPs, because this is super important that we understand what they are. UAPs are, of course, I can't find it here on this draw, but basically you can't tell that it has any propulsion. They seem to be just floating there, even going down and up and right angles, and they don't seem to go normal speeds of aircraft where, if a human body was inside, it'd be thrown around. Things go really fast, really up, really down, really fast. I mean, these are the UAPs. These are the demonic figures that, and they are usually glowing at night. I mean, the things you read in the Bible, everything you read in the Bible about angels, which are demons, both the good and the bad are both angelic beings, seraphim and cherubim, the Bible says. And so these beings have the ability to glow, basically, not just glow, very brightly glow, and produce some form of, let's just put it in real world terms, radiation that is able to light up the area around them. And so seeing glowing lights in the skies, I didn't know this until I started researching this. They've always said UFOs were these glowing objects. I always thought, you always see those objects and you think the cylinders are UFOs, and there's this saucers. Yeah. But actually that came from a guy trying to describe these saucers as a round disc. He wasn't saying it was a cylindrical disc like this. Right. He was saying it was a round disc in the sky, and he didn't understand why. Now, we have seen those weird cylindrical things, or people have reported them. I haven't seen them. But the amount of data about that is very minuscule compared to these round, glowing, orb-looking things in the sky. And so those things absolutely are demonic entities, and we're going to see more and more and more of that manifesting over the cities. But balloons, I have yet to be sure that that's what we're seeing. So is demonic entities.
Right. Well, good answer. I'm glad you could really weigh in on that one. Yeah, for me, it's been a little bit strange because it's been strange, folks. It's strange normal. But we haven't been able to really, I haven't been able to make a call because of just how little information there is and the conflicting information. I believe at a certain point, we're going to go over a clip where they even talk about interfering with radar and their equipment, which that seems to be a hallmark of the UAPs that we know of as fallen angels. It's just, it's bizarre. I guess if I had to make a judgment call, though, I would say these are not the fallen angel UFOs, UAPs. This is something else.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think what we're seeing, but I think what we're seeing is directly related to it, because I think the reason why we're seeing a bunch of those now is because we've retuned our radars. I'm on a broken record, but I truly believe that absolutely that because of this balloon incident, we're going to see a lot more UAP files or submissions to the Pentagon, which is going to lead to more, dare I say, I'm going to make all the ufologists happy by saying more disclosure coming.
Ooh.
Big word, right?
Yeah, that's an exciting word. Yeah, disclosure, please. That ship has sailed for me. I don't think the government will ever do full disclosure. No. It'll just be bits and pieces. The disclosure will happen when crazy things are happening that just can't be waved away, and it's on an individual basis. I think is when we'll be really having what they call disclosure.
Let's go back to Dan Bongino real quick. I think he has another interesting tidbit to say on this topic, and then we'll surf. You ready?
I'm ready.
Now, he's addressing here what variable flipped us from just about a year ago, Joe, the Pentagon leaking stuff about UFOs and I don't know, could be alien life, wink and nod. Everybody pay attention to UFOs. What changed from that to now the White House screaming, there's no UFOs, no alien life, to them shooting down a guy's, wooden plane he threw up in the air in East Tunafish, Idaho? Well, he tells you right here. The intervening variable? It's apparently a decade-long campaign by intelligence officials to keep reality bottled up. Yes. They didn't think we could handle the truth about Chinese balloons and drones over America. Folks, the administration doesn't want you to know that we have been getting wrecked for a long time on surveillance, and that China probably has a site diagram, that's what we call them in the Secret Service, of the entire United States, ready to implement the battle plan the second the United States comes to the defense of Taiwan if there's an invasion over the strait. How are they going to do it? I don't know. They likely have saboteurs here. They likely have EMP plans. And they likely have far better surveillance of us than we have of them. And the government doesn't want you to know that because liberals want you to believe government has all the answers all the time, except they don't.
Going on for a long, long, long time.
It's still skipping. So I think he's dead on, because I think that we're going to have a very critical time, especially in the near future. I've read some amazing stuff that is just saying that. Can I say that yet? I can't say that yet. There's so much more coming out in Starfall 2. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I can't give out the way. More coming soon. What do you think that he's trying to say there, Matthew?
Well, I think Dan needs to give the United States a little more credit. I mean, the way he's coming in at it, he's making China seem like they're like 5 moves ahead of us. They've got a site map of the United States. They've got EMPs in place, saboteurs. They're going to invade Taiwan and they're going to make all the dominoes fall. Well, Dan should know. I mean, the NSA, the America's spy network. It's kind of like, I don't know. It's like a dirty open secret. Really, everybody knows about it at this point. But we were tapping the cell phone of the German Chancellor Angela Merkel. You know, she wasn't safe from our spy programs. So I think that the United States has its fair share of spies and saboteurs and what have you in place as well. I don't think it's a totally one-sided deal. But I think it's kind of more... America's been kicked, right? We're kind of down. Well, I shouldn't say we. That's a mistake, people. Don't say we when you're talking about a country, because I want to be part of God's kingdom. So that's really
right.
Where
Yeah,
I want to be a citizen of.
I try to separate myself from any nationalism. Is that the right word to use? I don't know the terminology. Because if I'm too much, I live in America. I love America. I think it's the best country in the world. But hey, it's the world. I don't think the world is the best planet in the universe, so I say I'm not from this planet. You know, I not that I wasn't born here. I was born here, but
Confessions of a Starseed.
No, yeah. So I mean, there are people that believe that. People believe that they are starseeds and they are planted here. No, that's not what we're saying at all. We were actually saying that, just like Jesus said, my kingdom's not of this world. We're going to be taken out of here someday, and so I don't want to become too attached to one area on this planet and say that this is my home, because it's not my home. I don't want to fight for this place because my place is somewhere else. We are not here to cause death and destruction. This is my personal view. This prophecy says nothing about us taking up our guns and shooting. I love guns. Let's not get that wrong. There is the politics is very sticky. Yeah, politics is sticky because you got, hey, you shouldn't have guns, and then you got people saying, hey, you should have guns. Hey, the middle ground on this topic is the truth. It's neither one of these sides. Don't pick A and B. This is the devil's way. Make 2 teams and choose now, because the truth is, hey, you got one person out here that still has to hear the truth about the gospel. Does it say that the people that are witnessing in the end days are like, let's go pick up our guns and kill those people? No. But should a country have guns to defend itself? Absolutely. Okay, that's about enough of politics for tonight. But that's
I don't think
important.
you can escape it with this episode. Honestly, because we've got all this stuff from politicians, so it kind of bleeds over. And the situation does seem, it's interesting because it is becoming kind of a political situation, isn't it? Like, you can't help but touch politics if you're talking about this, because it's become a thing where it's A and B. It's like you said, this is the devil's best tactic, is that he builds up 2 sides, makes them polar opposites so that he can draw you into one mindset or the other, and the entire time you're not thinking of the gospel. I think you can extrapolate. I think you can extrapolate the A and B scenario even out to the nations of the world. I think America and China, realistically, who's pulling the strings here? In Daniel, we read that the king of the north and the king of the south sit at the same table. I mean, that by its definition is a conspiracy. That's what I always think. People act like conspiracy is this dirty word, but a conspiracy just means that there are parties that are coming together behind the scenes and making plans and taking action that we're not aware of, and they're working towards their own agenda. So if you believe in the Bible, then you have to believe in a conspiracy because it details a conspiracy.
Yeah. It's the biggest conspiracy, the great controversy between God and Satan. It's the conspiracy of all conspiracies. Yeah. It's huge. It's absolutely huge. Shall we go on to Louisiana Senator John Kennedy and what he says? This was fascinating.
This is a good one.
Yeah. In the same mindset.
Go.
Here we go.
All right.
At least 2017. And last week we were told 2019.
I'm going to back up a little bit because we missed a part of it.
Going on for a long time. At least 2017. And last week we were told 2019. That's what I took away from it today.
Thanks guys. Appreciate it.
Lock your doors tonight.
Breaking news tonight.
Lock your doors tonight.
What does that mean?
So what he's saying, so in context, what he's saying is, hey, I just got out of a briefing about China and all this stuff, and this has been going on quite a long time, longer than you guys realize, and lock your doors tonight. What?
Well, what is that? Yeah, lock my doors against what, Senator? A balloon? That really threw me when I heard that, because he said, just the way he says it too, lock your doors at that, folks. Like, yeah, it's weird. Because he's acting like it's a menace. It's gonna like break into your home or something.
But I really wonder what he was talking about. Was it just being senile, or was it just? I mean, I'm not trying to make fun of him, but it's just strange that he would use those words. I mean, he must have really heard something really petrified him to say, "Lock your doors at night." Lock your doors at night, folks. This is crazy. I don't know. So I think we're gonna find out more as time goes on. But lock your doors at night.
Yeah, I don't know what he's talking about in that capacity of locking my doors. But the fact that he said it was going on for a long time, and then what did he say? The longest, it was 2017, is what he said?
Yeah, 2017. That's one of the dates he said. Yeah.
Yeah, because when I first heard it, I watched that clip a couple of times just to digest it. And when at first he said like long time, I'm like, oh, is he like referring back to the 40s? And is he talking like real UFO, UAP activity, the kind of stuff that? No. And then he's like, it's 2017. It's like, long relative to what? Because that's not like extremely long ago.
Right.
I mean, maybe this is what he's referring to as like a Chinese surveillance system that's in place. Maybe
locking our doors is going to prevent them from spying on us.
I don't know. I don't know what he means. I wish he would clarify, but
maybe it was proverbial, or I don't know. Maybe he's thinking, hey, it's going to be a big deal. I don't know. What do you think? I'm going to toss it out to the audience because that was a real weird one for us. I'm looking at the strangeness here happening in the chat. If you know exactly what he's talking about when he says, when he just got out of a meeting talking about China, and he's like, hey, by the way, this has been happening. This contention between China and the U.S. has been happening for a while. Just lock your doors at night. That's a little ominous, don't you think? What do you think that means, guys? Tossing it out to you in the comments or in the live chat. Let's hear it.
Our international audience doesn't have to worry about that, by the way. You guys can leave your doors unlocked because it's not a threat to you, whatever it is.
So Christina says, you know what? I'll give China a run for their money. Banning TikTok.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Dreaded TikTok.
Knock it off our internet so it can't get access. Yeah, lock your doors. See, that's another thing. You can't stop China. Your kids are going to have TikTok on their phones. I mean, that's not locking your doors. I don't know. Anyways, I think it's interesting. But Louisiana. Let's see what else. Cleo. They're just chatting amongst themselves. More taxes. Okay. All right, guys. All right. So we
don't want to get political. This can't become a tax debate.
All right. So next up on the docket, another interesting clip we have here is CBS News. U.S. military has been tracking these balloons since they took off, but have they? We're going to find out if these things actually had. So 3 subsequent UAPs were probably not involved in spying. What are they saying here? Let's find out.
Breaking news tonight on that Chinese spy balloon. CBS News has just learned that U.S. intelligence watched the high-flying airship as it lifted off near China's south coast. That means the U.S. military had been tracking it for nearly a week before it entered U.S. airspace, longer than originally known. CBS's Nancy Cordes is at the White House. So, Nancy, they were watching this from the beginning?
They were, Nora, and what they saw was this balloon heading east from China towards Guam and Hawaii. But then it took a sharp northward turn, a beeline towards Alaska. They also revealed today that the 3 subsequent objects they shot down probably were not involved in spying.
Oh, probably not involved. So what were they? Were they some dude's paper airplanes, balloons, maybe a university research project? Well, just shoot him down.
Yeah, maybe. Well, you'd think that someone would have come forward if that were the case. That's what I was thinking. If this was a person's recreational thing, and it was like, if I don't know who does this. Maybe we have someone in the chat who does. Send up a giant balloon up tens of thousands of feet into the air, and then it gets shot down by the U.S. I mean, maybe
I don't think I would admit. I wouldn't admit to that.
Hey, that's my balloon. I paid good money for that thing.
You know, those hundreds of dollars in research money that we just rose to get that that weather. The military just shot it down. Should we admit that we had balloons? Okay, no. Okay, let's just lie low.
Don't they also, anything that you're doing with airspace like that, don't you have to report it? Don't you have to? I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's a lot more of a Wild West type of thing than I had previously thought. But I thought the U.S. airspace was pretty well controlled.
Yeah, except for where it goes up above 60,000 feet. So what I've been researching so far is I fly drones. You know, anything below I think 400 feet is civilian. You can still fly in there. They're trying to make it more licensed area, and you have to notify now. But above that, you can fly aircrafts and super light planes and stuff. Then above that, you got planes. But above that, they weren't even watching with radars. And that's why this is such a big deal in this show tonight, because above 60,000 feet and higher, supposedly this main 200-foot wide balloon carrying this massive payload of sensors from China was floated across the country. Yeah, remember that, the first one. And it kind of started descending downward until it got to the other coast. Now, our highest plane, our most sophisticated plane, the spy plane, I forget which one it is, SR-71 or whatever it is. I'm sure someone can tell us if they're in the Air Force, but it's only been clocked on record. Maybe it can go higher, but it's only been clocked at about 70,000 feet. So they sent these tiny winged aircraft bombers up here with missiles to hit this balloon. If it was up any higher, they might have not been able to get it. And dare I say, that might have been why they waited until it got all the way across the country, because it was finally low enough for them to pop. I don't know. Maybe they had missiles in order to shoot a 200-foot balloon in the air. I don't know. But that's the theory I would kind of going over in my head, that they didn't want to look stupid and miss it with one of their planes.
Yeah, because it seems like people were watching. There was always a spectator, so it would be kind of embarrassing. Just the missile just goes really wide. It's like, oh.
Somehow we had missiles land in this farmer's cornfield, and you have these unexploded bombs. What did this come from? Oh, the U.S. military just decided they were going to try to miss a balloon. How big was this balloon? Yeah, I'd be egg on your face, I think.
Well, they also had mentioned that they didn't want the debris from the takedown to hit anybody. I mean, I guess if this is a big honking piece of spy equipment up there, and it could come down and do some serious damage. So they waited until it was out over the coast. Just kind of a total fiasco, really. It's just put everybody on edge.
All right, I think we got one more Dan Bongino clip here. He's kind of been a focal point tonight and last episode too. The original China balloon was spying on each other for years. This is what he thinks about the original balloon. Check it out.
In the surveillance front. First, I told you something during my Fox show, during the podcast, whatever. You've heard it 1,000 times. We don't need to relitigate this. I said to you, the reason the China balloon story, the original one, the one we shot down that flew over the entire United States as we saw it here and there, the reason that story was a story was because it wasn't a story, was because China has been doing this for years. When we shot it down, trust me on this one, China was as surprised as we are. As we, the people, the government's known about this forever because China's thing was, wait, guys, meaning the United States, haven't we been winking and nodding at each other for years as we both surveil each other? Like, why is this a big...
What? Why is this a big... I guess I cut it off too soon there. Why is this a big deal?
Why is it a big deal?
Yeah.
Well, even from that last clip, we learned that apparently they were surveilling it as it took off and was floating across the ocean and all of this stuff. It's an interesting notion that he says we kind of wink at each other, acknowledging basically silently that, we're going to put a spy craft in each other's airspace and just kind of overlook it. Yeah, there's a lot of people who seem to think that the crux of this whole thing is a distraction. It's distracting you from something that's going on behind the scenes. I've seen a lot of people talk about the Nord Stream pipeline that blew up last year, and that are you familiar with this, Bradley?
Yeah. A little bit. I haven't been following the Nord Stream pipeline much. I don't know. I just know there's something that people are talking about Nord Stream pipeline.
Yeah, it ruined the supply of oil from Russia to Europe, and I think there's some evidence coming out that the United States was responsible for it. Go figure. So some people are saying that this whole balloon fiasco is something to distract from that, and then the subsequent UAP takedowns are just further build up on that.
That could be. I mean, I think there's a stronger spiritual agenda in this, but absolutely.
Well, there always is. Mm-hmm. I think it's important to always acknowledge, as Christians, we have to acknowledge there's a spiritual edge to everything. Mm-hmm. Nothing is ever in the media just because. No move is ever made on this big chessboard just to make a move. Mm-hmm. Satan knows that his time is short. So I think he's going to make precious decisions based off of that time, because I believe that Satan is so arrogant that he thinks he can actually win against God.
Right.
Maybe there is somewhere deep down within him that knows judgment has been passed, that God is going to summon the fire from within him. That's in Ezekiel. It's one of my favorite verses talking about Satan, because it talks about how he's going to be destroyed. It's a really
removed.
Nice one. Yeah, totally removed. Removed forever. There will be no more of a place for him. But yeah, I think that's running in Satan's mind constantly. That's like, okay, I got to beat him and I got to make it count. So everything we see there's significance behind it. And one day we're going to know the full story, I believe. When we're in heaven, we'll have time to look back and review over Earth's history through that spiritual lens, right? Like right now we're looking through the glass darkly, but we'll have this perfect lens that we can view Earth's events through, and we'll be able to recontextualize it with this new understanding that there was a spiritual depth for everything. You're going to be surprised too. Even looking back at your own life, you're going to think there were days that were totally inconsequential, but there were demonic entities, like right over top of you with the spear ready, and God sent one of his holy angels and just like tackles them to the ground. And you're just picking up some eggs. You don't even know what's going on. But I do think that the battle is being fought on that level.
Yeah,
so, yes,
it definitely is.
I
It's just as real as it is as the war is today. Absolutely. Which makes me speculate on a lot of things, but I'll hold my peace for a second. Let's move on to the next video. This is from the White House that they're absolutely sure about something here. We'll find out what that is. Watch this.
Well, I just wanted to make sure we address this from the White House. I know there have been questions and concerns about this, but there is no indication of aliens or extraterrestrial activity with these recent takedowns. Again, there is no indication of aliens or terrestrial activity with these recent takedowns. Wanted to make sure that the American people knew that, all of you knew that, and it was important for us to say that from here because we've been hearing a lot about it.
So wow. I think you can still hear the stigma in the laughter in the room about course. That. But she had to tell people that because everyone wants to know, hey, you haven't been telling us what these things are. What are they? What's going on here? Are these the aliens? Are they the aliens you've been talking about? Huh? That's been in the military? And it's obvious that that they're balloons. Oh, we'll see what they are. I think we're gonna find out what they are. But again, just because they're balloons right now doesn't mean they're balloons later on the radar. And because this is gonna open the radars up to, I guess they say, slow the radar down so they can see all the balloons in the air.
Yeah, I feel like you want to use your voice changer. Do you want
to
just throw out a balloons with the voice changer? Go ahead. This is it. Yeah, there it is. It all started with the balloons. But yeah, no, they kind of come out and they crack up about it. It's kind of like not last week, but on Monday's broadcast, that last clip we showed from Sky News Australia, they were just kind of laughing and joking about aliens, and it really tickles their funny bone, I guess. But anytime they bring it up, it's always ah ha 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 ah, ha ha ha. It's just more, like you said, stigmatizing the subject, making it harder for people like us who want to come in and say, no, there are people who are legitimately saying we're in contact with aliens and this is what they're saying. And not only that, but there's like a pattern of recognition it's like connected to all these different things. And you can't bring it up because otherwise it's aliens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and
little green men.
And that's what's going to surprise everybody in the world when things like this actually happen and people are like, oh, wait, this is legit. People are going to eat this stuff, Marno says. We have a clip from your favorite news guy. You ready for this? You like this guy, don't you?
Not this guy, please. I might just have to mute it.
I respect this guy because he's quite high in the totem pole for reporting on YouTube, and any person that he's been doing this a while, but I call him the bouncing YouTuber for news. He's the news guy that bounces up and down when he talks all the time. None other than Philip DeFranco. Watch.
We now have cockpit audio of F-16 pilots intercepting the UFO over Lake Huron.
Definitely looks like something. There's some kind of object that's suspended in the air. It's hard to tell. It's pretty small. I cannot see it outside of my eyes. Targeting pod, you can see something. I can't tell if it's metallic or what. And there's, I can see like lines coming down below, but I can't see anything below it. Looking outside is kind of like a blackish, I'm going to call it like a container. I can't really tell though what the shape is. Almost like a octagonal shape. I'm going to call it a balloon. You can definitely see strings hanging down below, but I don't see anything below it. It's pretty small. I don't know, size of like a four-wheeler or something.
So it was the size of a four-wheeler or something, he said. But what he said there I thought was interesting is that he's not sure what it was. And I actually grabbed all the audio, the whole thing. I listened to all 20 minutes of the audio taking down these balloons, and I chopped it up, and my computer crashed. And so that's why I had to grab Philip DeFranco's short on this, because I didn't have it anymore, and I didn't want to spend the time chopping all that up. But it was interesting that he said not only did it look like a four-wheeler, it looked the size of a four-wheeler, but it was also had strings hanging down from it. But when he approached it, he says, I can't see it with my eyes. I can't see it with my eyes. There's a glare. I can't see it with my eyes. And so he had to take another approach. And he says, it comes so fast at us that I'm actually worried I'm going to hit it before I see it. And so, and these guys are, you have to be a pro visual person to be in the as a fighter jet pilot. You actually have to see very well.
Yeah, you got to have that 20/20 vision, no LASIK. yeah, they make sure, and they do regular checkups to make sure that pilots have decent vision. Yeah, but
So.
yeah, there you have it. He did say it was balloon-like.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
that was one of the descriptors he said. He said octagonal and balloon-like. So maybe, yeah, this is like, it looks like an octagon.
That's so weird, and it's putting up an octagonal anyway. This
he's got a great vocabulary, that pilot.
We're gonna watch. I have a short in here. I don't remember what it was. We might. Should I skip it or should we play it? I don't remember what it was. Let's watch. It's short. It's only a minute. So let's just see what it says real quick because I didn't write it in my notes.
U.S. defense officials sent F-35 fighter jets up to try to figure out what this object was that was flying around near Alaska. Those pilots, we have learned, have given very conflicting accounts of what they actually experienced, with some pilots saying that the object interfered with the plane's sensors, other pilots saying that they didn't really experience that, other pilots saying that when they looked at the object, they could identify no identifiable propulsion system, and they did not know how it was actually staying in the air, cruising at that altitude of about 40,000 feet.
Bob, I mean, this is starting to sound like something out of the X-Files.
Well, Jim, the speed of those airplanes, F-35s, it's no wonder they all saw different things. It's a great mystery. I'm absolutely fascinated by this.
What? The speed of those airplanes, Jim, there's no wonder they saw all the... What? They're trained visual people. What is that called? Trained people that can see these things. I mean, that's what they're supposed to do. They're not only able to see things from a long ways away, because that's what they're trained to do as a pilot, but they're also able to detect which type of plane it is, if it's friend or foe, from a long distance. There's no there's someone going so fast. They saw all these different things. That's silly. I think they saw what they saw, and they weren't sure what it was. And so, not every day you go after a balloon or a UAP.
Yeah, and they were giving conflicting accounts too. I think is interesting. Yeah, it's so weird. If we could just get some video, maybe something a little more concrete than just hearsay type of a thing,
right.
And these like third-hand accounts from people who were not there and really don't know, but they're just gonna throw it out there. I mean, I guess that clip before was pretty nice because we do have some audio directly from the cockpit, so I think that's probably the most solid piece of information that we've had released about these 3 UAPs that got shot down. So, yeah, the one in Alaska now, it seems like they didn't really, there's no clear consensus on what it looked like or was doing. So,
right, absolute
bizarre stuff.
We only got one more clip. Oh, I said it. But this is we were talking about this earlier. Oh, I'm not supposed to say that, but this is the President of the United States. This is Joe Biden telling the world exactly what's going on here. So he finally, the information came up the chain, and they've decided that they're going to tell the world what in the world is happening. This is the moment we've all been waiting for, folks. Or is it? Here we go.
They're reporting to me daily and will continue their urgent efforts to do so, and I will communicate that to the Congress. We don't yet know exactly what these 3 objects were, but nothing right now suggests they were related to China's spy balloon program or that they were surveillance vehicles from any other country. The intelligence community's current assessment is that these 3 objects were most likely balloons tied to private companies, recreation or research institutions studying weather or conducting other scientific research.
So there you go. We shot down someone's scientific research. Yay, military. How much do these ballistic missile things cost? We just used thousands and thousands of dollars to shoot down someone's science project out of
more
the
than
air.
Thousands. Yeah, those are expensive missiles. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there you go. He came out with it. He said it. But again, I have that question where, okay, if this is, as he said, that it's from a private company, recreation, research institution studying weather or conducting other types of scientific research, why haven't any of them said anything that you've been shooting down our balloons? Shouldn't there be someone claiming, yeah, that's us? I mean, it would put people's worries at rest. He's saying that it's not anything to do with spying. It's not from China. It's not from any other country's spy networks. It's just balloons. It's just balloons. It's come full circle. We're back to balloons. It's like we can't escape it. It will always be balloons.
But
maybe that's
we're not going to be reconfiguring our radars back to non-balloons anytime soon. So I'm confident of that. They're going to keep their radars slow, if that's even a term, so that they can see more objects on the screen. And we're going to have more people, more false alarms, because I mean, just the ones we reported tonight weren't everything that they've been scrambled to go check out. This is just what the media has reported. There's been other media that's kind of fallen through the cracks of balloons. I have Flight Radar 24 is a website that tracks commercial aircraft and stuff like that, and they have had balloons put on their radar system or on their map showing where they are tracking balloons as well. And they've shown that there have been scrambled jets out here. Those weren't talked about. And so there's a lot more being scrambled than I think we even realize from the mainstream media. And we are only seeing the beginning of this UAP thing that's coming out. And that's the whole point of this whole episode is get ready, folks. Put your seatbelts on.
It's the year of the balloon. So, grab your helium. This is what it is. This is where we're at. 2023. It's the balloon. The balloons.
Yep. So, any last thoughts before we pray out?
No. I mean, I think that this was a nice little
can't
review
I hear you?
of what's.
Hello.
Hello.
Uh-oh.
Hello.
Did your batteries go dead?
Did you mute me? No, my batteries.
Did my batteries go dead?
My battery's fine.
Oh, it's my bad. I couldn't hear anymore. Say again. What were you saying?
Hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Oh, just interference. We've got the Chinese spy
balloon.
We've been disrupted. No, I think that this was a fine little roundup, just a nice little follow-up to Monday's broadcast. Again, if you haven't seen it, check it out. We go in depth walking through everything that happened over the last weekend. But yeah, just not a very satisfying conclusion yet. Yeah. So we'll see where it goes.
More to come. Yeah. If you're in Chicago, please check us out. We're going to be doing some presentations out there. Me and Mikey, of course. Little Light Studios is where I work, but the Strange Normal is a passion project of mine, not affiliated with Little Light Studios, and we appreciate everything you're doing to help us with our project here, because every little bit helps. If you want to be involved and even be on the broadcast and help us out, or you just do the background, be the research, or help us out monetarily, go to patreon.com/strangenormal, and you too can be a part of the broadcast, because what we do here is reveal the truth behind what's going on, and that truth is absolutely essential to know in these last days, and we want to tell people what's actually happening behind the scenes. So keep on the lookout. Thank you for what you're doing, and God bless you. Have a good night. Thanks for watching this segment. Subscribe to our channel and join us every Thursday night for more daily strange topics and more. Find us on Discord by accessing patreon.com/strangenormal. See you there. And